just a couple of minutes just while you find your seats. That would be good. So I'd like to welcome you back to our final morning of conference, and hope you're all feeling so refreshed, having walked along the front in the rather cold wind, and then been and done the training and the training sessions that I'm sure were well organised and have given you lots to think about. So there we are. And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's taken part in the training sessions, and I hope that you can put what you've learned into practice back in your own communities and constituencies. So thanks very much for that. Can I just remind delegates that the awards that we mentioned yesterday are available for collection from the party stand, and they have all been signed by the First Minister, so they're worth that. And so please, can you ensure you collect them on behalf of those members that have won them but weren't present yesterday? So the party stand is just outside the doors there. So please do go and collect them and make sure that those worthy recipients can have that award, because I think that's, I suppose, the least that we can do to say thank you for all those efforts of hard work that they've put in over, and everybody puts in over the time. So we're going to move on now, and I'm just looking for the Chief Scrutineer. Oh, he's there. Good. So I'd like to call on our Chief Scrutineer, Dave Bazina, to give his report on the results of the Standing Order Committee's ballots. Dave.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Conference. Thanks very much. Dave Bazina, Caerphilly CLP and Chief Scrutineer. I hope everyone's recovered from celebrating another solid, unbeaten performance from Craig Bellamy's Wales team last night. Got a chance to watch it. I've been doing this role for a number of years now, but this is probably the happiest occasion I got up to deliver my Scrutineer's report. I was trying to work out the other day how many years I've been doing this. I think it goes back sort of something like 10 or 12 years. I wasn't entirely sure, but I knew it was less than 14. And the reason I knew that, it was the first time I've been able to come up to this rostrum with a Labour government in both Westminster and Cardiff Bay, and it sure feels good, Conference. I just hope if I'm privileged enough still to be doing this in 10 to 12 years' time, I'll be able to say the same thing then. A couple of thanks first. Thanks to the tellers who haven't been needed so far this conference, but thank you for volunteering. To colleague scrutineers, and also Wales Labour staff for the preparation work they do around the ballots prior to coming to conference, and particularly to Dan Tucker for his help this weekend. Thanks to delegates too, particularly. No card votes to date, so I know I might be tempting fate because there are some motions later on this morning, but hopefully we can get through without any card votes. And a special thanks I want to pay to Honeybee's carers who are running the creche upstairs. I would not be able to probably even attend conference, let alone participate to the extent I do, without the service that they provide this weekend. So I have one ballot only to report on, and that is the election of male representatives to the Standing Orders Committee, where you are electing 3 from 4 candidates. Just to remind you, the 3 women appointees are listed in the SOC report, which was presented at the start of conference, but for the record, those were Dawn McGuinness, Zoe Blundell, and Mary Winbury. Just in terms of the ballot for the male members, because I'm aware there would be some new delegates here who may not be entirely familiar with the processes. So the ballot is held in 2 sections, one ballot amongst party units and another ballot amongst affiliates. Each section contributes towards 50% of the overall votes, and the votes are weighted in each section, then aggregated for the overall result. I will give the percentage breakdown for candidates in each section, then the weighted percentage in each section, and then the overall aggregated percentage. In the affiliates section, Jack Dunn, 2.02%, weighted 1.01%. Ian Bounds, 29.96%, weighted 14.98%. Nigel Gibbs, 28.75%, weighted 14.37%. Carl Whitehead, 39.27%, weighted 19.64%. The party unit section, Jack Dunn, 28.35%, weighted 14.18%. Ian Bounds, 24.41%, weighted to 12.20%. Nigel Gibbs, 25.98%, weighted 12.99%. Carl Whitehead, 21.26%, weighted 10.63%. And therefore, conference, the overall result was Jack Dunn, 15.19%, Ian Bounds, 27.18%, Nigel Gibbs, 27.36%, and Carl Whitehead, 30.27%. Therefore, conference, I'm pleased to confirm that those elected are Ian Bounds, Nigel Gibbs, and Carl Whitehead. So can I say my congratulations to the successful candidates and commiseration to the unsuccessful one this time, but thanks for putting your name forward. It's important we have people putting their name forward. And conference, that concludes my reports. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So, are we happy to accept that report?
No, don't need to accept the report.
Okay, thanks very much. That's great. And can I thank you, Dave, and all the work that you do and the tellers and the scrutineers to do to support the democratic process that we operate at conference. So, diolch yn fawr iawn I ti. Thank you. Conference, we now turn to the obituary section of our conference before we start the main business of our day. And we want to take a few moments to remember those members who are no longer with us. And so at conference, can I ask those of you who can and want to, can we stand? So we stand together for a short period of silent tribute to all of those colleagues who we've lost over the year. Thank you very much, conference. Right, so we turn to our business today. We have a Welsh Labour General Secretary report. So there we go, and I'd like to invite, well, he says newly appointed here, but I've got used to him as being the General Secretary. So I'd like to ask General Secretary Joe Locke to give his report. Oh, he's already there. Well done, Joe.
Thank you, Anne. For those of you who know me, I'm not a massive public speaker, so please bear with me through this. I'm also painfully dyslexic, so I have coloured paper. So just bear with me through this, and I'm also very nervous. Good morning, everybody. It's my absolute honour of my life to be able to stand on this stage today and address you as the General Secretary of Welsh Labour. Don't be fooled by my youthful complexion. This is not my first Labour conference. I actually first attended Labour conference over 14 years ago as a delegate for the local CLP, Ynys Môn. 14 years ago, attending that conference, we were getting ready as a party to fight the difficult 2010 election. In the subsequent years, Wales faced a sustained assault on our devolution settlement from a Westminster government hell-bent on underfunding and undermining our institutions. And since that time, I have served Welsh Labour as a local organiser right here in Aberconwy, as a regional organiser across North Wales, and as head of field in the numerous general elections we've had through that period, and local elections and Senedd elections. And then on to Deputy General Secretary for the past 3 years. And finally, stood here before you today as the General Secretary of Welsh Labour. I was actually appointed as acting General Secretary 9 days before the general election was called, which was a real baptism of fire. So, I'm incredibly proud to have been appointed as the permanent General Secretary. I'm also very proud of the role that myself and my incredible staff team have played in bringing an end to the 14 long years of Conservative government. And they all dotted around the room at the back there, and I'd just like to call on conference to give them a massive round of applause for their amazing commitment. Here in Wales, we contributed to that election victory in a uniquely Welsh tradition by unelecting every single Conservative Member of Parliament across the country. From the seafront in Rhyl to the seafront in Barry, you can walk the length and breadth of this nation without stepping foot in a single constituency represented by a Tory MP. And that is thanks to the hard work of the people in this hall and our activists out in the CLPs that you have come here to represent. You have all put in the hard slog, getting out on the doorstep, knocking up that Labour vote and turning out one of the most extraordinary victories in our party's history. Our message of fairness, ambition and unity has resonated across communities like never before. This success was not guaranteed. It was earned. One conversation, one doorstep, and one vote at a time. It belongs to each of you, our dedicated members, affiliates, and supporters who give life to our values. This extraordinary gathering of people embodies the heart and soul of our movement. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you've done to bring us to this moment. I want to take a moment again to thank our remarkable staff, both past and present, whose commitment and hard work have laid the foundations for our success. And I think it's important to note that a lot of the general election staff that work for us during the general election do so knowing that their jobs will end the day after polling day, and yet they turn up and they put the hours in. To our organisers in the field, our team at Welsh Labour HQ in Cardiff, and the many volunteers who lent their time and energy, you are the backbone of Welsh Labour, and I cannot thank you enough for your unwavering commitment. Looking ahead, the work is far from over. The Senedd election in 2026 looms large, and it presents an organisational challenge like no other. As the political landscape shifts, so must we. This is an opportunity to strengthen our presence across every region of Wales, to reach further and connect more deeply with every community. We'll need to be strategic, inclusive, and innovative in our approach, ensuring that every voice within our movement is heard and every resource put to use. This journey requires all of us. Together, we will build on our momentum, sharpen our vision, and continue to champion the values that make us Welsh Labour. Our purpose has always been to deliver for Wales, and we will have always done so, even under the most difficult circumstances. Our challenges are immense, but so too is our determination. Thank you, Conference. Let's keep building the Wales we believe in and the Wales that we know we can be. Diolch yn fawr iawn, pawb.
Thanks very much, Joe, for that. That's great. And I think we all know how hard you work and how hard the staff have worked. So thank you very much on behalf of Conference once again for the staff and for all the hard work in getting this conference running. I think I said yesterday, I sit here like a swan just gliding along. I don't know whether I am a swan, but I glide along, but underneath and behind me are the staff who are running round, attempting to make it all work very, very smoothly. So it's a big tribute to them. So thank you very much. We now move to the Women's Committee update, and I'd like to invite Claudia Bowes to deliver the update on the Women's Committee. Claudia.
Thank you, Chair. Conference Sisters, Claudia Bowes, Chair of the Welsh Labour Women's Committee. It is with absolute pleasure that I'm here today reporting on the work of the Welsh Labour Women's Committee, especially at a time where we have a woman as First Minister, a woman as Deputy Leader in Wales and in London, a woman as Secretary of State for Wales, and a woman as Chancellor of the Exchequer in Westminster. The Welsh Labour Women's Committee continues to bring together women's officers, delegates of affiliated organisations, trade unions and elected representatives. I'm very much looking forward to our First Minister directly feeding into the committee. It is an important forum for strengthening and supporting our women's branches and raising the voices of women, both by working to increase representation and democracy within our party, and ensuring that the issues affecting women and by extension their families are at the heart of our politics. As a party, we owe it to ourselves and the people we represent to ensure our party structures reflect the Wales we live in. Over the weekend, I was delighted to meet the many women's branch delegates and see women's branch motions being debated. Last November, we held another Welsh Labour Women's Conference, the second debating and passing motions. Motions on topics directly affecting women and covering a breadth of topics, from child poverty to decriminalisation of abortion, violence against women and girls, and workers' rights. Motions which will directly affect the direction of policy in Wales. As returning delegate to the Welsh Policy Forum, I'm looking forward to starting the discussions on how both the Labour government in Cardiff Bay and in Westminster can support and improve the life of women. Because let's face it, when we raise up women, we raise up people. Sisters, this might be familiar to you, to many of you in the hall, as I was perfecting my report this morning while simultaneously battling my daughter to get dressed. In my husband's defense, I did ask him to leave the room. On a more serious note, my mother, who is now in her 80s, forever says to me, "Claudia, why are you still doing this? We were talking about these things 60 years ago." We're doing this because we can see some progress, but we know there is still a lot to be done. We're seeing a generation of young girls who put on their princess dresses and climb a tree in it because no one ever told them, you can't do this because you're a girl. However, sisters, conference, we are living in dark times. We have women in the US having their reproductive rights taken away from them. We have a challenge from the right here at home. And we have women and children being killed in Gaza, Lebanon, and the Ukraine. So the fight for our rights, and frequently our lives, continues. I am honored to be the chair of a committee that is truly standing on the giants of Welsh Labour women's politics. It has been mentioned numerous times over the weekend. But the fact that we have near gender parity, a woman as First Minister, and women in leadership position on all levels would have been a lot harder to achieve without the Charter for Women and the women tirelessly pushing this. But the internal struggle continues, and we cannot be complacent in encouraging women, BAME, disabled, LGBT, and working class people to come forward and select and support candidates reflecting the diversity that is Wales. I would like to conclude this report by thanking Michelle Perfect from Welsh Labour for all the hard work she has put into supporting the committee and wishing her all the best in her new role. I'm sure it has not always been easy, but as Lynette has reminded us yesterday, well-behaved women rarely make history. I would further like to extend a very warm welcome to Sophie Thompson, who is taking over as Women's Officer. I'm sure I speak for the whole committee when I say we are looking forward to working with you. Thank you, sisters and conference. Enjoy the rest of the day. Have a safe journey and keep up the fight.
Thanks very much for that, Claudia. And I think that was the first time that we've had a report from the Women's Committee at conference. So there we are. We've got another historic event to mention there. So I think that was very good. So thanks very much. We're now going to move on to our debate this morning. We've got a short video to introduce this section in Nghynhadledd. So we'll have the video, please.
I'm a radiographer in the NHS.
I'm working as a cardiac senior nurse.
I am a medical laboratory assistant training to be a biomedical scientist.
I love working in the NHS.
Helping people at the most vulnerable of moments. Making sure that everyone gets the support they need.
Helping for every human being since they're born.
The NHS was founded in Wales. It was one of Labour's biggest accomplishments, and no doubt it's there to stay. The NHS has managed to maintain that model where healthcare is free for all. In Wales, we've got free prescriptions. I don't know how families would, manage financially to pay for prescriptions. Hospital parking is free. Lowering of the age for bowel screening for bowel cancer.
And this is possible because of the service and the support provided by our Welsh government.
We all know someone who's been helped by the NHS.
I was a patient myself in the intensive care in 2020 April, and the amount of care, amount of support, amount of love and compassion.
The NHS supported my mother when she was struggling. If it wasn't for the Welsh NHS, I don't think my mother would be alive today.
I don't have any other words rather than saying thank you from the bottom of my heart to them.
I feel hopeful and optimistic. The Westminster Labour Government and Welsh Government can work together and help ensure the NHS in Wales is the best that it can be.
Thanks very much for that. And now I'd like to introduce Jeremy Miles, the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care, to introduce the debate.
Conference Chair, diolch yn fawr. It's a real pleasure to open this final session of the weekend. This is my first conference addressing you as the Welsh Labour Health Secretary. And it's an incredible honour and a profound responsibility to be asked by Eluned to be the political custodian of this great institution, of that most valuable of our national assets. We are rightly proud of our National Health Service and all of those working in it here in Wales. An NHS born in Wales and forged from Labour values. An NHS which, almost 8 decades on, still holds true to those founding values. An NHS whose guiding principles and Irene Bevan would still recognise today. And our Welsh Labour Government will always stand up for the NHS and for our public services. We will always put the health and care of the nation first. But, Conference, we all know that the last 14 years have been difficult. Tory indifference to public services, to public finances, coupled with their economic mismanagement, have wrought havoc on the very fabric of our national institutions. A decade of austerity, a botched Brexit, the Truss mini-budget, the £22 billion black hole in the public purse. All of them have left our NHS battered and bruised. 14 years of the Tories has stripped resilience from our health and care system, and it can't withstand many more shocks. Conference, we saw some light at the end of that dark tunnel a couple of weeks ago with Rachel Reeves' first budget. A budget which promised to return investment in our public services and, importantly, for the NHS in Wales, an increase in capital funding to start on that journey to fix the foundations. It's my job to be the voice for the NHS and social care around the Cabinet table as we make Wales's draft budget, to protect the things that we hold dear. Free prescriptions, the real living wage for social care staff, the mental health ring fence, record numbers of staff employed in the NHS, the NHS bursary, and we're talking to local government colleagues about how we can support them and care services over the winter. Conference, you'll all know about the First Minister's listening exercise over the summer. It'll come as no surprise to anybody in this hall today that the NHS was the public's #1 priority for her new government. People spoke of their pride in the NHS, about how much they value, how much they rely on the NHS. But they also said that they're worried about long waits for routine treatment, about difficulties accessing care. Because it is their priority, it is my priority. A few weeks ago, I announced an extra £28 million to cut waiting times. And this weekend conference, we will now increase that sum to £50 million. And this isn't money coming down the track. This money is available immediately to the NHS in all parts of Wales. It'll be used to target the longest waiting times between now and the end of March next year. It'll pay for more evening and weekend sessions, more high-volume clinics. Conference on top of what is already planned, the NHS will use this additional money to treat 16,000 more people by the end of March next year, carry out 14,000 extra tests by the end of March next year, and up to 20,000 more outpatient appointments by the end of March. There'll be a package of funding to reduce the longest waits for children's neurodevelopmental assessments, and Sarah will tell you more about this as she responds to the debate today. Conference, this is not just funding for the NHS to carry on doing the same things. It's for our NHS to meet the enormous demand for care by looking at new ways to supporting people and give them the support they need at the right place at the right time. And that does not always have to be in hospital. So this funding will give health boards some space to start making changes to the way that operating theatres are used, to modernising outpatient departments, to changing clinical pathways, to ensure only those people who need to be seen in hospital are referred to hospital. Conference, we all feel passionately about the NHS in Wales and our social care services in Wales. And I'm looking forward to hearing today's debate, to hearing your ideas about how we can work together to continue to improve our health and care services. We are all passionate, and we are at our best where we work together and stand together to support our NHS. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thanks very much for that. So we're now going to move to consider the motions under this section. And the first motion that we will be looking at is motion 11, which was submitted on ND Friendly Wales, being submitted by Allen and Deeside CLP. I'm being informed that the Allen and Deeside rep is not present, and therefore I'm just looking to see whether somebody's going to correct me. No, so that, and unfortunately then that motion falls. So we'll move to motion 12 from Mid and South Pembrokeshire Women's Branch. This is on addressing the impact of caregiving on menopausal women. And can I ask a delegate to come and move motion 12, please?
Good morning, Conference. I'm Maureen Bowen, Mid and South Pembrokeshire Women's Branch. I'm moving motion 12, addressing the impact of caregiving on menopausal women. I'm going to try not to go on for a tangent telling you about tales about menopause, because I have lots. I have young women when I was working saying to me, "You're slow. When are you going to retire?" That was a favourite one. And I kept hoping that their false eyelashes would fall in their tea. And then you had the older women who never had any problems. And then there was the motherly type who say, "Bunch of parsley down your bra, love, you'll have no problems." Well, I tried it and I had a green stain on my bra. But I did get some professional help. But to get back to the motion, thank you for indulging me with that. But I just wanted to get it off my chest, because women... Because women aren't always so kind, and if you do go through a bad phase, it is quite nasty, it really is. The brain fog, etc. But anyway, back to the motion. The burden of caregiving relies mainly on women in midlife, giving care to parents, spouses, and children. Some women can be on a treadmill of care, working and giving unpaid care while trying to balance their life. These caregivers save the country millions of pounds. Social services would fall apart without them. As a county councillor, I know how much the local authorities struggle to meet the demand for social care, which is growing year on year. We are really going to be struggling to meet the demand. So I'm really pleased with what you've announced this morning. Without the average of 15 hours, often more, from unpaid caregiving women per week, providing the contribution from these people, social care would struggle. The motion calls upon Welsh Government to include the impact of caregiving on its menopausal plan and ensure that appropriate target is supporting these givers, because they are absolutely essential. Please support.
Thank you. Is that formally seconded, please? Formally, thank you. So we move now to motion 13, which is on IT in health and social care, and has been submitted by the Socialist Health Association. They're on the way. Well done.
Bore pawb, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Alison Schooler, Adui. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alison Schooler, Chair of Socialist Health Association Cymru. I'm a retired midwife, moving motion 13. I imagine we mostly agree that using information technology in health and social care can improve and enhance services provided by healthcare professionals and those working in social care. What we may disagree about is the extent to which it should be used. Therefore, we do need a modern IT system. This could empower all of us. That's the individual clients, patients, and health and social care professionals, workers, and also the organisations that provide health and social care. It could save time and make care more effective and efficient. This is suggested in the Digital and Data Strategy for Health and Social Care, which was published in 2023 after the appointment of the Chief Digital Officer. However, what is really key is that any information is secure and confidential, because people need to have trust in the systems that are handling information. Clearly, we learned a lot about trust during the COVID pandemic. That is trust between the public and health and social care professionals, and trust between the public and experts in general. The benefits of enhancing IT use within health and social care services are that information can be shared across boundaries and between departments, This can improve communication and speed up processes. We've seen that a frequent item on news bulletins is about solving the lack of space on hospital wards and in A&E departments by ensuring timely social care is available. Improved IT systems can facilitate this. I do feel like I'm stating the obvious, but there we are. There are technical challenges, but there are also human ones. The Public Health Wales survey in 2023 on digital health use in Wales indicated that while 20% of patients and clients felt technology improved their experience, 50% disagreed. This was especially the case with the latter amongst people who were older with poorer health. Currently, IT is most used for information seeking and administration purposes rather than direct clinical ones. The digital strategy states that where a person can be identified, data should only be shared with that person's consent, or when the law demands it, for example, in order to safeguard children. This all sounds good, but with advancing technology, some may be able to get round that principle. As SHA Cymru, we have several concerns. What is vital is that there is transparency and that patients can opt out. There is reference in the digital strategy to the private sector using health and social care data to create added value, accelerate innovation, and strengthen the economy of Wales. We understand that the private sector has a role in health and social care innovation. However, their agenda is not necessarily public well-being. In the same way, we could not expect the financial, insurance, marketing, and leisure industries' only interest in such data to be totally for our collective well-being. The private sector would be involved in computer hardware, infrastructure, and software as well. We in the SHA across the UK have campaigned against the involvement of the Palantir company in NHS data in England, because this company has roots in the US military and industrial sector. In the same way, we need to be cautious about the involvement in data of pharmaceutical companies. Within Wales as SHA Cymru, we were concerned at the passing of the Health Service Procurement Act in Wales in October 2023. We felt it did not exclude the enabling of privatisation of clinical services. We were told that this would be prevented by regulations. We now seek a commitment that it will not facilitate privatisation of services related to people's data either. There must be a clear promise that a modern digital and information system for health and social care in Wales protects data and confidentiality and is only used for the public good. Just finally, another issue to mention is those who live on the borders with England and or in rural areas in Wales, who cross borders frequently for consultations and treatment, and vice versa, of course, for those living in England. This has been the case for many years. It is nothing new. Nevertheless, we have concerns about how data is already being used in England. So, to conclude, I ask you to support this motion, urging the Welsh Government not to enable health and social care data to be used as an economic driver for commercial or for profit purposes. Diolch am wrando, Nghynhadledd. Thank you for listening, conference.
Thank you. Can I ask, is that formally seconded? Formally, thank you very much. So the last motion in this debate is motion 14, and it's on an establishment of an ME, also known as CFS department in Wales. This has been submitted by Swansea West CLP. So can I ask for the delegate to come forward? Thank you.
Bore da conference. My name is Catherine and I'm from Swansea West CLP. This is my first time as a delegate and my first time speaking. I'm moving the motion from Swansea West CLP to establish an myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as a chronic fatigue department in Wales. It definitely doesn't look like it, and I've been told that many times this week, but I have ME, and it's very difficult to be here because last conference in Llandudno was when I had my first symptoms of ME. It was very difficult at 21 to be told that there is no cure to my illness and that there's really nothing that can be done. Conference, prior to the COVID pandemic, roughly 13,000 people in Wales suffered from ME. It is a multi-system chronic illness that has no cure. Most people with ME never fully recover, and I'm very lucky that I have been able to do so. Around 70% of those who have ME are women and are often encountered challenges with the system. Their concerns are not taken seriously as they should be. We brought our motion forward because we are concerned about the services for this condition and the ability to receive diagnoses, and believe there should be a specific provision so that those with the condition can access appropriate care, recovery and diagnosis plans. In our motion, we have called for this to be rolled out across health boards in Wales and for the Welsh Government to look at ME plans set out by the UK Government, which we're very grateful that West Streeting has finally taken this seriously. Conference, we have organised to meet with the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care to discuss our concerns and aspirations for the treatment of this condition in Wales. Following this agreement to meet with the Cabinet Secretary, we have agreed to remit our motion. I formally move this motion and agree to remit. Diolch, Conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate. And as you have agreed to remit that, we're grateful. And so therefore, there's no need for a formal second for that. So thank you very much. I'm going to open up the debate. So if anybody wishes to speak, I knew you would all put your hands up. Okay, then. So we'll start. 1, 2, 3. And then I'll come for another round if we've got time.
Conference Borodor, Derek Roberts, Unite retired members, and I'm speaking to motion 13 about IT in the health service. Now, IT is a useful tool, but it can't solve the fundamental problems that we know the service faces. That's the ageing demographic that we have in Wales, where we're getting older, thanks to the NHS, but there are not enough young people being born to pay for that service in the future as it looks at the moment. So things are going to have to change. We understand that, and that's something I know that the Health Secretary is already wrestling with. Now, the mover was very clear about data security, and the good news is in Wales it is more secure. We are not offering our data as a commodity to Palantir, as it appears the English NHS service is doing, and I hope that continues. But there's a bigger problem, and it's one that faces older people in particular. 1/3 of people over 75 suffer from digital exclusion. They don't have access to internet services, they're afraid of it, they feel fearful of it, and they don't like being driven to use it against their will. It's made them feel excluded, unwelcomed, unloved, and have no sort of, as though they're regarded as a problem. Now, the Older People's Commissioner for Wales identified that in her report, and she issued statutory guidance as a result of it. But I have to tell you, that feeling of rejection and misery and understanding of what the hell's going on has sadly been reinforced by this government's decision on the winter fuel payment. And don't kid yourselves, that problem has not gone away. Unite, if you don't know, Unite is taking a case to judicial review, which includes witnesses from Wales, from our retired members in Wales, and the campaign is going to continue. There's going to be a major event on the 30th of November, and that issue will not go away. But back to IT, we do need to use it, but you need to make sure that people who are fearful of IT have a means of accessing their services that they need. Thank you for listening. Thank you, conference.
Thank you. Yeah.
Libby Nolan, Cymru Unison, speaking on support of IT in health and social care. And for those of you that are my age who work in health and social care, we know the absolute joy of moving away from paper to paperless, but I would say paperless with some paper, and also, as what my comrade said, with support and equalities assessments as we go forward. But as a nurse working in Swansea, the joy of being able to flick a switch on a computer and have access to your information if you happen to come into an emergency department and you're unconscious or you're unable to remember your details, and have before me your allergies, your GP notes, your medications, is life-saving. It's life-changing for the health workers that endeavour to do the very best for you. So we don't want to move back, but we also want to move forward knowing that there's safeguards in place. So what are the problems? Putting aside the sometimes clunky rollout of IT, also the replacing hardware when it goes down and you've got budget controls, the education around GDPR that often health workers and others, social care workers struggle with. But for all of us, the importance for clients and patients is to have confidence in how secure these systems are. Mine, yours, and theirs. Our information is used and stored, and how it is used and stored. It's private and confidential. Whether it's a HIV test, or whether it's your dietary requirements or your allergies, they're our information, and we want to know and be safe, that it's safe and secure in whoever's hands it's in. Or else you end up with people not telling you things because they don't trust IT, they don't trust they don't have confidence in how that storage is happening and how it's been handled. As I say to people, your data is yours and my data is mine, and it should be remembered. Private and confidential data, it's mine and yours. All too often there is accidental breaches, and that can happen daily. People don't fully understand what these breaches mean. They don't fully understand GDPR. And no data should be used or sold on to research development companies or private industries. There should be correct adherence to the consent process. The systems in place to safeguard our information, our data and education to ensure all users know their rights. And we urge Welsh Government to endeavour to protect individuals' data. To remember our data isn't for sale and not without our consent ever. Thank you.
What is our conference chair? My name is Tanzim Hussain-Gull and I'm supporting motion 12, addressing the impact of caregiving on menopausal women from Unison Cymru. I'm a person who's going through menopause since the last 7 to 8 years. I know I look young, but I am going through menopause myself. And we do have a lot of caring responsibilities as a young individual as well. Now, working women are the sandwich generation. It is an honour to care for our elderly generation and a pleasure to support our grandchildren's generation. We are the unpaid carers, financially saving society. All that pressure whilst experiencing menopause. We live in a progressive society in Wales. We are proud to look forward and build a stronger and fairer society. Women who are in the sandwich generation are likely to be also be experiencing menopause symptoms. The Welsh Government have an opportunity to support the working women who are multitasking as carers while holding their current jobs as well. Please consider promoting the menopause to be accepted and promoted as a workplace issue, and that there must be support and help to promote an understanding within the workplace. Sickness is attributable to the menopause, and it should be accounted to the same period of sickness. Open access to medical report support, whether that's via a GP, NHS, or specialists, it should be promoted and not penalised financially. Paid time off and nothing less. Gender-specific risk assessment should also be a priority. We would like to request and encourage the Welsh Labour Party to include menopause issues as a manifesto commitment. Please support this motion. Thank you.
So I'll take another round of 3, so if you could show. Back there, yeah. Yeah, okay. No? Yeah.
Bore da pam. Kate Dewden Unite. It's not my first time at conference. I'm not a first-time speaker, but it is the first time I've tried to do this in an electronic form. So, a lifetime in IT, and I've managed some advance, that's good. So I want to talk about IT in healthcare. Information technology in healthcare is complex, it's rule-driven. Imagine having to code in all the contraindications of each drug into a medication system. And it's very data-rich. Think how many times clinicians take data from you. They take it at every appointment. They take it every time they take your blood pressure. They take it every time you give a history of your condition. Every time a decision is taken again about you, and every time a treatment is prescribed. Data adds on data, adds on data. So think about that amount of data that's in your personal health record. It's about every interaction you have with everybody in healthcare. Your journey in healthcare may have started on paper, but it is now digital. Your allergies, your relationships, your next of kin, your occupations, the places that you've lived, your illnesses, your tests, your treatments, and their outcomes. All that data is stored on you, and it's stored on everybody else. Data on millions of people over decades of the NHS. I would argue that it is the single richest database on the planet for healthcare records because of the longevity of the NHS, and long may it continue to live on, and because it's state-provided. So this motion understands the value of IT in underpinning your health and care. It recognises the importance of IT in enhancing social care in Wales, and it urges a speedy rollout of modern IT systems. But critically, this motion also urges Welsh Government not to enable health and social care data to be used as an economic driver for commercial profit. If you think about the richness of that history of data, millions of people over decades, think how valuable that is for research, how valuable it is for public health planning and prediction, how valuable it is for assessing the effectiveness of drugs, but it's also incredibly valuable to private enterprises for their commercial benefit and for private profit. As we look over the border, we see what's happening in England with big contracts with companies like Palantir, who are engaged to store millions of personal healthcare records in one place, federated data. We hear those calls to use AI, which has some sort of probable advantage to you in the future, but it's always a bit nebulous when it's discussed. And we hear concerns that access to that data may be sold to companies. As someone who lives near the border, I also thank the SHA Cymru for raising the issue of data transfer over the border, as many of us take acute care in England and we have no idea what's going to happen to that data there, and we experience on a regular basis a lack of transfer of that data.
Could I ask you to wind up, please, Delegate?
We believe that the data is yours, that any data sharing consent that you give is for the public good and for society's benefit, not for private profit or corporations. Conference, please support the motion. Thank you.
Bore da Conference, Norma Davis, Cymru Unison, Flintshire County Branch, speaking in support of motion 13. Now, I've not prepared anything, this is off the cuff, so I just wanted to talk about my role as a social worker who does complex discharges from hospitals cross-border too. So we've got Countess of Chester and all the hospitals in Wales and North Wales. So the importance of having some form of electronic records to aid and speed up discharges is, I would say, is paramount at the moment. Because what happens at the moment is I have to have handwritten notes emailed to me by the nurses on the nursing assessments from the OTs. They're scribbled in. Sometimes I can't read the notes because they've been photocopied, then they've been sent on a computer. So that data is really important for me because I need to know if someone needs double-handed occupational therapy, moving and handling plans. I've got to set up that care package. And sometimes what happens is I will get that information and the hospital will say, this is a delayed discharge. This person has to be out of the hospital today or by tomorrow at the latest. And I've got to work on that. So if we had an integrated computer system that would just take a specific part of the data, not all the data, just the data to enable a smooth discharge. So it would be the nursing assessment, the occupational therapy assessment, any specific instructions around that person. That would be really, really helpful to help social care and for us to be able to help that patient, because a lot of the patients I work with, they have no speech, they may have had a stroke, they may be in end-of-life care, and some of them don't have any family at all, too. So it's very difficult to get that information. So I know that we don't want the private sector to use the data, but I think there is a role for this, for IT to be integrated. And I know it's something that I've brought up with Jeremy previously. So I would ask Conference to support this motion. Thank you.
Jenny, you had your hand up? Yeah, okay.
Jenny Rathbone, Cardiff Central. I just wanted to join in the conversation about the importance of IT, because I want to start by saying that I know that Sarah Murphy, who's going to be summing up this debate, is a complete Rottweiler when it comes to data justice, as she pursues us all. And I think, therefore, we can confidently pass this motion because I know she's on the case of ensuring that these commercial interests are not harvesting our data to make money out of people's ill health. Transparency is absolutely crucial, but as the previous speaker has just outlined, IT can really speed up the process and enhance the well-being of the individual who doesn't have to tell the story 10 times over. Yesterday I had a meeting with Ben Cullerton, who uses BSL language, having been deaf from birth. There are some 900 BSL users who are unable to get the most basic information, like when the bin's going to get collected, because only 3 of 22 local authorities have a video relay service. I'm glad to say Cardiff is one of them, and the other 2 are Conway and Bridgend, but the other 19 need to step up to the plate on that. Now, video relay service won't enable Ben or anybody else to have a conversation with their GP about why they're feeling unwell. So you can see there are limitations to IT, and we clearly have a major problem on how we ensure that every citizen gets to have a conversation with their health professional. But digital can and does save lives. And nowhere is this more the case than when it comes to somebody having a stroke, because you only have 4 hours before the effects of the stroke are going to be permanent. And so this is very, very difficult for a stroke specialist to have to decide exactly what the intervention they have. They've got to, first of all, ensure that this person is having a stroke rather than some other complaint, and that digital image, the MRI, will be able to confirm whether they're going to have to do emergency surgery or whether they're going to give a very large dose of antibiotics. So there, AI is absolutely crucial in enabling that clinician to make really rapid decisions about something that's extremely complex. And we have to have that in all our stroke units to ensure that people's lives really are being saved. So I would urge you to support the motion.
There is time for just a couple more speakers, if there are any that want to come and speak. And if they're not, that's great. Thank you very much. We're all going to finish early then, by the look of it. So there we go. So thanks very much for that. So I'm going to now ask Sarah Murphy, who's the Deputy Minister for Mental Health and Wellbeing, to respond to the debate. So thank you, Sarah.
Conference Chair, diolch yn fawr. I am very pleased to be able to respond to the Iechyd Da debate today, and I want to thank you all for your incredibly informed and interesting contributions this morning, which have really touched on so many aspects of health and social care. But more than that, they have touched on my personal priorities as the Welsh Labour Minister for Mental Health and Wellbeing. So I want to start by responding to the one motion from Swansea West CLP, which I regret that we will not be able to support, but we do so because we are already investing in community-based services for people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. We have invested £8.3 million every year to expand the Adferiad service, which was originally set up to provide care for people with long COVID. The extra funding provides access on a symptom-led basis to people with long-term conditions whose rehab and recovery needs are similar to long COVID, and this includes ME and chronic fatigue. But I would also like to take this opportunity to really thank Catherine for coming up here and sharing your lived experience. It is not easy, it is powerful, it is brave, and I'm really pleased to hear that you have already having a meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care. We take this incredibly seriously. We will listen to you very closely, and we will endeavour to do everything that we can. So diolch yn fawr, Catherine. I want to turn now to the other three motions, which I'm pleased that we can support. So to Mid and South Pembrokeshire Women's Branch, I say this. I am absolutely determined that women's voices and women's experiences will be heard. The Welsh Labour Government is absolutely committed to improving women's health and healthcare services for women, and we will be publishing Wales' first women's health plan in just under a month's time. It's coming. It will draw on the experiences of more than 4,000 women and girls who told us what it's like accessing NHS care in Wales and what they want from services. It will also draw on the work of the All Wales Task and Finish Group on the menopause, and I hear you talking this morning, and I will ensure that the points that you've raised around social care and care and responsibilities will absolutely be incorporated into that. I want it to be a living plan which will evolve over the next decade as our services develop. But most of all, I really want it to be a catalyst for change. I turn now to our intention to become an ND-friendly Wales. The Welsh Labour Government understands the need to improve neurodevelopmental services. Demand, as we know, for services has grown massively. Waiting times are too long, and there's not enough early support available. Jeremy announced £50 million to cut waiting times at the start of his debate. I am very pleased to say that that includes £3 million to target the longest waits for children's neurodevelopmental assessments. This money will be immediately available for every part of Wales and will make real progress towards eliminating all 3-year waits and reduce the number of 2-year waits. It will prevent those health boards which are at risk of breaching 2-year waiting times from doing so, and it will reduce the longest waits in every health board. But reducing the longest waits is not a long-term solution to exponential growth in demand, and we know that that's what's going to happen. We have to make changes to services to make them more sustainable and more capable of responding to the demand. So our neurodevelopmental improvement programme is looking at how we redesign services to create a needs-led, sustainable service. At the end of this month, the NHS will come together to consider new ways of working to improve the assessment and care of neurodiverse children and adults. And then finally, I want to turn to the Socialist Health Association's motion, another priority area for me. The future of our health and care services is a digital one, but not one based on pen and paper. We are supporting this motion on the basis that digital and data are fundamentally important to modern health and social care services. We want a digital-first NHS where data is owned and retained by the NHS, and where digital systems are integral to the delivery of high-quality services, supporting people, professionals and clinicians, not hindering them. And I think it's made a real impact on myself and the Cabinet Secretary this morning, how many of you have got up and talked about this from loads of different perspectives. I do want to reassure you that I think part of the reason why it's been allocated to me to kind of drive this delivery in Wales is that my background is in this area. I have a master's in digital media and society. And so everything that you're talking about is everything that I'm really passionate about myself. I believe in data justice and fairness, transparency, accountability, empowerment, basically all of the values that we already hold in every other part of our sectors and our life. I also want to say that I very much believe in the shared prosperity model and inclusion and human rights and working rights. And just to end, I wanted to say thank you very much to my colleague Jenny Rathbone for comparing me to a Rottweiler, only because I actually spoke with the Cabinet Secretary last week and described myself as more of a Jack Russell, because I like to dig into things and get to the bottom of stuff and kick everything up and then see where we are and what we're going to do next. But I do want to reassure you all that myself and the Cabinet Secretary are so committed to this digital transformation and serious inclusion as we go forward. And I do hope that we'll be here with you at the next conference and we'll be able to give you a very meaningful update to demonstrate that we are really listening. So conference, it has been an absolute pleasure to take part in and respond in my first health debate. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank every part of our movement who have made this weekend such a success. It's wonderful to see you all. I hope you get home safely. Diolch yn fawr.
Thanks very much for that, Minister. Thank you. So, conference, we're now going to move to the votes. We have a motion 11 from Alan Indy's side, and sadly falls because the delegate wasn't here. So we'll move to a vote on motion 12. So all those in favour of motion 12, can they show, please? Thank you. Anybody against? No, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you. And then motion 13. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? No, that also is carried. Thank you. And motion 14 submitted by Swansea West CLP. We are very grateful that you have agreed to remit this so that further work can carry on. So diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much for that. So there we go. That concludes the debate on Iechyd Da. And we're just going to swap the platform around a bit for the close of conference. So. I don't think we'll need this. I won't need it. So here we are. Right, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she should be close to the middle, right? Yeah.
So there we go. So we come to the end of conference. Can I say thank you? I want to say thank you first because there's been a lot of people who have allowed me to sit here and enjoy chairing this conference. I'm sorry if some of you out there think I haven't made a very good job of it because you weren't called in the pressured debates, but there we go. I've been in your position as well, and you know, I've stood up and waved papers and whatever when it's been there and been just sadly no time. So, but thank you all very much. Thank you for the hospitality that you've shown today towards each, well, not today, but for the conference that you've shown to all the delegates. And thank you for all the networking that you've done. I'm sure that you will take quite a lot of good ideas away from different areas of Wales into your own constituencies. Once again, I want to thank Joe and the staff, who never get as much praise as they should. They're a small group of people who work incredibly hard, and it doesn't matter what time you pick the phone up, they're always there. So thank you very much for that. And I also want to say that for those of you who have stayed to the bitter end, thank you. I know what it's like to stay to the bitter end. And it's always when you've got a long journey home. So I wish you all a very safe and pleasant journey home. And I hope the weather's good to you all. But we can't close without a few evergreen classics, can we? Yeah. So there we go, conference. If you're able to stand, will you? Stand, and we'll join me and the platform. See, Lynn is already up. She's desperate for this. To sing the red flag, followed by our Welsh national anthem. Thank you. Well, yes.
There'll be an opening.
There's an opening coming, apparently.
Red, it shrouded off our martyrs dead, and their limbs grew stiff and cold, their hearts but died in every fold. So raise the scarlet standard high, within its shade we'll live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. Well done. So, we get another note? We're going to get the note. Thanks very much for that conference, and all brings conference to a close, but all have a very safe journey home, and we'll see you within the next 6 to 7 months for our next annual conference. So diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you. You've been brilliant. You've been brilliant.